Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at some more Square Enix related news. Now in my previous video we talked about the recently filed trademarks for Final Fantasy VII over in Japan, and in that video I made mention about how it's probably going to be a big year for Final Fantasy. I mean, we expect some news about 16, 7 of course we're keeping our eyes on, and Final Fantasy 14, if all goes as we expect, will have an expansion out before the end of the year. However, there of course are other studios at Square Enix, and one such studio had some news that was kind of slipped in really unexpectedly at a recent presentation by Sony. I'm talking about Luminous Productions and their working title, Project Athia. Now, some of you may know Luminous Productions because they were the ones behind Final Fantasy XV, which is a big reason why we're keeping a close eye on Project Athia and any news regarding its development. We've heard very little about Project Athia, but we may have gotten a tiny detail, something not so important, I suppose, maybe a potential release date? Yeah, we kind of had a release date kind of secretly snuck into a Sony presentation at the recent CES 2021. Now, Sony had an approximately 16-minute long video, and throughout the video, it's a lot of fluff about their technology and their games and their music and all the things that they're working on in the entertainment industry. Now, at the end of the video game presentation is a screen that says "Play has no limits," something of course we expect to see when it comes to PlayStation. But at the bottom is really where the more interesting information comes. We see a lot of potential release windows for a bunch of different titles, including Ratchet & Clank, Horizon Forbidden West, Pragmata, and of course Project Athia. Now, Project Athia doesn't have as vague of a release window as some of these other titles. In fact, it says January 2022. Right next to where it says Hitman 3 will be... Is January? Okay, maybe I shouldn't trust this as much as I do, despite coming directly from square.sony.com, and I will include the link to this video in the description of the video. But it says Project Athia, January 2022, and quite frankly, that probably surprises a lot of people. I've already seen people saying, yeah, I'll believe that when I see it, because it seems like we just heard about Project Athia last year. In fact, we did. However, it may not be as surprising as people think. So digging back a little bit to get an idea of how long this game has actually been in development and determine if January 2022 is feasible, I remembered an old article that mentioned when they started working on the game and how they were approaching it and what their mission statement was on the game. And I couldn't remember where it was. Turns out it's right on Luminous Productions' own website. An interview from back in September of 2019 talks with studio head Takeshi Aramaki about a new AAA title, which we now know is the working title Project Athia. Now, he starts off talking about how 2018 was all about Final Fantasy XV's DLC, about how he became studio head during that time, and about how they started working on a new title at the start of 2019. So that means that at the very earliest, they started working on it on January 2019, which means that if it were to release January 2022, it would be an approximately 3-year development window. Now, that may sound like not a lot, and in fact, we have a frame of reference for the other work they've completed in similar time, in that of the vanilla release of Final Fantasy XV. Now, that can leave some people more or less pessimistic about what a 3-year window would look like for Project Athia, but we have to remember that Final Fantasy XV was probably not developed under the most ideal circumstances after 7 years of everyone wondering, where is Versus 13? And them having to pull it together. So I am curious what the studio could pull off in 3 years of their own accord. You know, everything done from scratch within the studio, not having to worry about previous works or references or any sort of other work. They can just work on it at their own pace. And if 3 years is enough for them, or they feel 3 years is enough for them, well, that'll be determined January 2022. Personally, I don't think Project Athia will release January 2022. I do think it will take longer, maybe 6 months to a year longer. And you know what? I want them to take as much time as they think they need, because they weren't the ones who said January. That was Sony. So who knows? Maybe they'll come out and clarify that within the next, month or so after this news makes the rounds. Now, quite frankly, there's a more important detail in this interview, which we have brought up on the channel before, that I'd like to remind everyone of, and that is the mission statement of Project Athia, because it's one that's definitely going to put a little bit of pressure on the shoulders of the developers working on that game. So when I scrolled down a little bit, I was reminded of this question. Among your ongoing projects, would you say the largest production would be the development of the new AAA scale game that will be a brand new IP. Aramaki responds, yes, the team with the largest number of staff assigned is the development of the next generation AAA scale game title for a brand new IP. As we all know, Square Enix has a number of popular titles under their belt like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. Luminous Productions' mission is to develop a new title that's on the same playing field as those titles. Our objective is to deliver our audience a completely new IP that is marketable worldwide. It is a hell of a mission statement to say, yeah, Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, we want to be like those guys. It's always a great idea to have. You don't want to shoot low, but to say that that's your mission statement, it's a bold one. That's for certain. Now, can they do it? Sure, I'd like to believe that they can. They have produced a Final Fantasy game, even if it was one that definitely had some problems that both preceded it and followed it. That being said, I will be cautiously optimistic about this, because if they could deliver something of that quality, just imagine having a whole other IP on those levels, Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, that you could look forward to every few years. I mean, who wouldn't welcome that, right? But we have to see the game. We've seen so little of it yet that I can't say whether or not I believe they'll pull it off. We've seen a couple of jumps, some vines spawning from the approximately 1-minute teaser that we got. And other than that, we're just going to have to wait and see. Let me know in the comment section if you think that Project Athia could possibly pull off something of that scale, or if maybe we should definitely temper our expectations. Put that in the comment section of the video below. And also be sure to subscribe and all that good stuff in case we find out anything else about Project Athia or any of the other Square Enix titles that are being worked on and potentially releasing within the next year. But with that, thank you for watching this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, take care.